This just in, Canada is out and Japan is winning the World Cup.
What? Is this official?
Not exactly.
That's a prediction of yours?
Yeah. And also, if we thought Germany was having a bad day, Canada's having a worse day.
Yeah, they're really going through it.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to talk about. What we're going to do. We are recording this video about 4 hours before the USA Portugal game. So this video will come out after the USA Portugal game has probably already finished. So as soon as that game finishes, we'll make a video. You know, we're a little bit delayed. And also, I asked a lot of people, I go, are you watching all the games, most of the games? And a lot of people said they were watching every single game.
You're all wild for that.
I mean, you know what? The Spain-Japan game happened first, but we got to go right to Canada. Because what happened with Canada at this World Cup is shocking. Canada played Australia in the group of death. I mean, I can see why it's the group of death. No one,
the God, but not the good kind. The bad kind.
Being in that group really was a hardship for those 4 teams because their competition was so extreme, and it showed why. But the game, I mean, usually we go through the game kind of goal by goal. I'm really not going to do it because I don't want this video to get too long. But at the end of the day, Australia outplayed them in every way possible, practically.
Yeah.
There were scenarios of how Canada was going to advance, but the simplest way of them advancing is them just tying or winning. They needed to tie. They couldn't tie. So, I mean, at that point, Australia played for their lives and they won, and they really went out there like it was a final almost, you know. Obviously, we had that quote from Sam Kerr the other day about, was she going to play? You know, was she fit to play? Could she play? And remember what she said? She goes, I'm fit to play. I'm not going to reveal my secrets. I don't know. I don't want the opposition to know how much I'm playing, if I'm starting. So she didn't start. And so you never knew, was she coming in? Were they going to need her? They didn't need her by the end. But the one thing the commentators had said that I did not realize is that the Australian press was really, really, really giving the Matildas and their head coach, mostly their head coach, issues because they thought they were being deceptive about exactly what was going on with her injury. Yeah. You know, they weren't letting on how serious it was, how serious it wasn't, because what they do in Australia, like they do in the States, they're pretty transparent with injuries. But football culture, especially in Europe, is not. It's very secretive injuries. But usually in the States, like baseball, football, the press knows, you know, they basically know how much someone is hurt, the recovery process. But in football, the rest of the country, rest of the world, it's not like that. They keep things very closed off. They don't want the opposition to know. They don't want, you know, their market value on their player to go down, I guess. So
yeah, that's interesting.
So the press there. So what the Matildas were doing, they were treating it like it was European football, saying we're not letting anyone know because realistically you don't have to. But traditionally in Australia, it has been like United States where the press knows, you know. So I thought that was interesting. That's an interesting take because if Australia lost in this not making it past the group stages, I mean, I'm sure Tony, the coach, is fired. I'm sure, you know, and they're going to
You're going to say Tony the Tiger.
And I'm sure that they would have been given a hard time in, you know, as the players probably by not advancing. But that did not happen. Like I said, I'm not going to go goal by goal, but it was a wild game. Canada, Christine Sinclair was back starting. She had to go out this round. It's crazy. No, it's crazy.
And I'm actually really sad that she couldn't make history.
I know.
I mean, she's made plenty of history, but that she couldn't. The one player that scored in 6 World Cups.
I know, but it could be Marta still, right?
That's true.
So it could be Marta, which is also fitting. You know, one of the 2 greats. You know, either Marta or
goats.
Yeah. Even at half, it seemed like Bev Priestman was kind of, I don't want to say panicking, but she brought in 4 subs. She took 4 out. She took Christine Sinclair out. She took Jordan Hyde out, and she brought in 4 subs. And it's like she was throwing the kitchen sink at them, but nothing was working because Australia had such a good game plan going into there. And everyone said, you know, Foord and Steph Catley were kind of the standouts, and obviously Haley Raso, she scored. So they won. They outplayed them. Canada's out, and Canada are going out at the group stage of the Women's World Cup for the first time in 12 years. Yeah, Yeah.
That's the type of history you don't want to make.
And we all know how much Canada has been through this this last year, losing funding on a World Cup year, not given the adequate training camps and adequate things they need to succeed. But we hear the story a lot of other federations are not supporting their athletes either. So it just sucks. The Nigerians have one of the same problem. They're not even being paid adequately. But you would think the Olympic champions would get some respect from their federation, from their country. But, as Americans, obviously I know the rivalry between America and Canada is great, but I felt really bad, after they were...
Yeah, Vanessa Gilles was crying after the game, and Ellie Carpenter came and hugged her, and she cried even more, and she's hugging her teammates. It's just really sad.
But there was kind of one funny moment in the game. This is actually maybe my favorite Canada highlight of the game. I don't know how they picked this up, decided to show this one moment, but Allysha Chapman, she decided to throw out some words.
Some very colorful words. Not very Canadian of her. Not that nice Canadian.
Yeah, Haley Raso, she kind of had a collision with Haley Raso, but she made it clear she thought Haley Raso, what did she say? She goes, "You effing ran into me, you effing TWAT."
I think, yeah.
And it went on the TV as clear as possible. I mean,
clearest.
Very
like
clear.
She could have been commenting on the game.
Yeah, it was wild. But
they have her mic'd up.
Yeah, I know. But I mean that's where it leaves us.
It's the most unpredictable World Cup ever.
Yeah, exactly. And then going on, I guess we'll go on to the next Group B game, and then we'll talk about the Spain-Japan. But group Nigeria and Ireland. See, so yesterday I predicted Canada and Australia, they were going to move on. This is why. I could not fathom a scenario in my head where they did not move on. I was trying to tell myself, well, no, of course, it's Canada. It's Australia. Of course they're moving on. But looking at the scenarios of them both moving on was actually very slim, because Nigeria only needed a tie. Any scenario was if they tied won or tied, all they needed was a tie, they were going to move on. So the scenario for Nigeria not to make it would have been, they would have had to have Australia beat Canada, and then Nigeria would have had to lose to Ireland with a huge goal differential. So the fact that I thought Nigeria was not going to go through, so many scenarios said, no, Nigeria more than likely will go through.
I called it.
You
I
did?
said they were going to go through.
Because I couldn't fathom a scenario where where Canada, the Olympic champions in the home country, Australia, who's didn't go through. But I mean, I'm so pumped for Nigeria. I'm really rooting for them. They're not supported, by their federation. They didn't even have a proper training camp before the World Cup. They have a few NWSL players on the team. The Super Falcons. I mean, that is the best team name, is it not?
Like that. I do like that.
That is the best team name, because you know what I thought too. I thought Ireland was going to go into this game and said, we had 2 losses. We're gonna smash Nigeria.
Kill.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that was going to be Ireland's mentality. Said, hey, we're going to go out on a very big high. We're going to smash them. That was my mentality, because Ireland was so pumped. So that's kind of in my head, I thought was going to happen.
The thing that the pattern we're seeing here is that you can have that mentality going into the game, but something very different might happen in the actual game.
Right.
You could totally have the right mindset going into the game, but who knows what's happening or what could happen,
Yeah, it doesn't quite work out that way.
Yeah.
But even in that game, Ireland came out hot. It ended up a 0-0 draw. So a lot of people were saying Nigeria looked like maybe they were just playing for the draw. Because like I said, in any scenario, Nigeria with a draw was going on to the round of 16. But Ireland came out hot. In the 5th minute, Mccabe almost scored in the 5th minute. So, I mean, she said, Katie and the whole team, they said, we're not going down with a fight. In that game,
She also said, we're not going down without me getting a yellow card.
I know, very fitting, right?
Classic.
Very fitting. She got a yellow in her last game. But in the first half, Ireland was kind of on the front foot, and they kind of, they were kind of more in control and had chances. Then second half, Nigeria really kind of turned that around, had a few good opportunities, came really close to scoring a couple times. Their half for most of the second half. Also, I will say, there was an amazing save by the Irish goalie, and the commentator kept saying that was the save of the tournament. That was he was shocked. I mean, he kept kind of going on about it, and it looked like a great save, but he was like, the way she did that was amazing. Now,
he's still talking about it.
Now, get this. They had the save of the tournament, and they had the goal of the tournament, Katie Mccabe's Olympico goal.
Whoa.
So, I mean, they made
impressive.
it very impressive.
That's hot.
So that, cool. I'm rooting for Nigeria. They're great. They've been successful they've been, I believe, in every World Cup. They're a very successful nation. Ireland has to go home, but it's only going out from here for them, I believe.
Yeah.
So Ireland out, Nigeria and Australia moving on. Crazy, crazy group. Okay. So that leads us to the game, Spain versus Japan. This is the game everyone goes into and say, yeah, these are the two top contenders pretty much. Mm-hmm. And what we found out from this, Japan, they're winning the World Cup.
You're calling it now.
This was such an unexpected result and unexpected game tactics, or I don't even know how to say it. Everyone has Spain as the team to beat. Even more so than Japan before this game. But they're in Group C. In Group C, the one criticism I saw about Spain and Japan realistically from the group is their competition in Group C isn't like the Group B. It's a very, Costa Rica and Zambia, they're kind of wild cards. You never know, lower ranked teams. So they're
not top tier.
Yeah. So you never know if you're looking good because you're playing a lower ranked team or because you're actually looking good. And I think for one of those two things were true for Japan and Spain. I think a lot of people came out from this saying Spain was looking good maybe because the teams they were playing were not amazing. And the other aspect would be Japan is looking good just because they are looking good.
Right.
If you look at the stats, though, this is what's crazy. I think this is what everyone's talking about. Spain had 78% of the possession. Japan only had 22%. Spain had 894 passes. Japan only had 265. Spain had 87% pass accuracy. Japan only had 59. Those are not stats if you were to look at those stats and then look at the score, which was 4-0. Like a masterclass in the counterattack. And also in defense, they were like a brick wall. And tactically, they were just so superior in their game plan. They had a game plan. And this is what the commentators talked about. Every team they played, they adjusted their game plan to the team that they were playing. They adjusted it. Whoa. It wasn't like we're going to go out there and just play our soccer and then beat them. It was more like, what do we need to play? How are they going to play? And how are we going to adjust?
That's impressive.
Because one criticism they said of Jorge Vilda, which is the Spanish coach, said, we're going to play the Spanish way and we're going to hopefully win. And that didn't work out today, because Spain had so much of the possession and Japan was comfortable with that. They just held back. They said, well, you're not getting through. Look at us, formations tight, tactically tight, clinical, and the vision that they had. I mean, it was like they were playing chess and Spain was playing checkers. It was so,
I like that.
It was so impressive. And that's why I'm like, no one's beating Japan. It was just really, really cool to see. And it was just a fun game to watch. It wasn't a physical game. It was just such a tactical game by Japan. Yeah. Every opportunity Japan they had, not every, but they made something out of every opportunity. It ended up 4-0. Even like the goal in the 28th minute, such a team goal. The goal in the 39th minute, an amazing goal. I mean, after this game, I think Spain's going to have to do a lot of soul searching saying, are we going to play Spanish football and beat other people? Because sometimes teams can't tactically change what they're doing. And if they do what they did against Spain, against any other team, you can't beat Japan. Now, could another team go in there that physically is just more dominating and physically? Maybe. I mean, possibly. But Japan, I mean, that was such a cool match to watch. I actually really enjoyed it. And you just saw the Spanish players. They had the ball. They didn't know what to do. They would pass it back and forth to each other. And then they would kind of try to get past the back line of Japan. And then Japan would just say, nope, not today.
Nope.
Yeah.
Turn around.
It was a very cool game. Some of the commentators said the pinpoint location of Japan, the shape, their formations were so well done. And so precise, and this gives Japan momentum and confidence, and I think it makes Spain reassess some things, which I think is probably a good thing. Now, Am I joking? Japan's gonna win. Maybe yeah, maybe no. But this World Cup is the wildest World Cup in history. Could Spain go into their next round, which they're gonna play Norway, and Norway wins?
Absolutely.
Exactly. Exactly. That could happen. Do you think it's gonna happen? No, but based on everything we've seen so far, predict the unpredicted. How do you say that? Expect the unexpected.
Yes.
That should be the theme. What does everyone think? Who's shocked by Canada? I guess I am. You know, like I said, when I predicted that, I did not realize how slim of a chance Canada and Australia getting through was going to be. I mean, now in my head, I realize, of course, because they're playing each other and it's going to be slim. Also, Japan. Who has Japan winning? What does everyone think? And pump for Nigeria, bummed for Ireland. Also, Ireland's white kits were very nice. I really like the white kits for Ireland.
Yeah.
And I saw somebody saying the Canadian kits are actually one of their favorites as well. What is your prediction for tonight's game? USA versus Portugal. A prediction.
2-1 or 2-0.
I was thinking 2-0. I think 2-0 too.
So I'll say 2-1 since you'd say 2-0.
Yeah. So we'll be back tomorrow either crying or happy. What does everyone think? Questions, comments down below. We'll talk to everyone later. Have a good night.
Bye.